and what's its galore? You want thingamabobs? I got 20.
Oh. Oh no. It's back. Zidane Danny, Electro Ninja here, and welcome back to Electro Ninja's Lab. As you can probably tell based off of, well, what's going on behind me, yeah, we're talking about Kingdom Hearts Melody of Memories demo, which is honestly a decently fun game. But, as I said in the bit, it's, gonna bring back some war flashbacks. The simple fact of the matter is that Melody of Memory is basically taking what was from an honestly terrible game mode from Kingdom Hearts 2, a thing that a good majority of the fans absolutely despise, and changing it into a fully fledged game. Now, the thing is that people have actually changed since then, and are actually are more interested in these types of games. So I don't think that it's necessarily a bad thing, but knowing the fact that people despise Chain of Memories for a lot of reasons, this honestly feels like it's going to be getting a lot of the same treatment that Chain of Memories did back in the day, and probably will take up the position as the worst Kingdom Hearts game of all time. But let's actually look at this game. So the first thing to note is that every time that you open up the game, you are going to be asked to do the tutorial. Now, luckily you can skip it, but it's going to kind of force you to do it pretty quickly, and choosing not to can be a bit of a challenge if you don't know what you're doing right off the bat. Basically, in order to stop it, you have to press the options button, and as soon as the start thing has stopped showing, and then you have to choose to skip it. But that's not a huge deal. First off, let's look at the different things that are within this game. The first thing to note is that there's the main menu. Currently, the main menu only has 3 options that you can actually play on. However, you can actually see a lot of the different options that are already available, including World Tour and many, many more. The only real problem with all of this is that there's only 3 game modes that you can currently play in. You can play in Standard, which is pretty self-explanatory, and we'll be going over a lot of that because that's where the majority of it is. And next is co-op. The first thing to actually note about co-op mode is simply the fact that there's not as much to it. The first thing is that, well, for the most part, player 1 controls everything. While player 2 is actually able to do some things, for the most part, it is player 1's decisions what happens. Like, seriously, you may not be able to do much with this. I believe that there is... Nope, actually I'm wrong. Player 2 cannot do anything with this, and it's not that surprising, to say the least. And there's actually a bit more to this. So the first thing is actually just, there's not really any extra game modes. The first thing is, of course, that there is only L1 and R1 to basically choose whether it's going to be beginner, standard, or proud mode. Then you have, obviously, 2 songs currently. And that's pretty much it. Not a huge deal. Let's actually look at one of the songs, and then we might look at later at the hardest game mode for this. Now, when I was playing this, I was playing both characters myself. Mostly because I just wanted to test things out, and yeah, it's kind of interesting. Basically, this will only have you using the 3 main buttons. Basically, X, circle, and triangle if you're playing on PlayStation, and then if you're playing on other systems, I don't know the systems well enough, and I haven't played the demo on them, so unfortunately I can't say for sure. But I will be playing the demo later on the Switch to actually test it out there as well. But one of the biggest reasons for why the co-op is so bare bones is because of the fact that when playing on co-op on the Switch, you may only be using this, which is not much, to say the least. You don't have directional buttons, you only have one analog stick, and yeah, you can pause and stuff, and you do have the L1 and R1, but that's it. Yes, you could possibly use the L and L2, LZ, I guess is what it's called on this. I don't know the system enough, but because of how bare bones this is, they couldn't put as much into it, meaning that you're basically stuck in basic mode. You can't, which I kind of wish that they had allowed you to switch it into one button mode, especially because if you're going to play it on as one person trying to test things out, then that can be a little bit tricky. So yeah, it's not the best, but it's actually surprisingly better than the normal game mode. There's just honestly too much going on here to actually make sense of. But let's go back to previous me and see what he has to say about the rest of the game. But basically it's self-explanatory. You need 2 players in order to play. You can't play online, sadly. I'm assuming that only the versus mode will actually be something that you can play online with people, but you will need to have whatever your console uses as its internet access. So if you're playing on PlayStation, you need PlayStation Plus. If you're playing on Switch, you need the Nintendo thing, and so on and so forth. So just be aware of that if you guys do want to actually play that stuff. Next up is the options or config, whatever. I don't remember what it was because I'm recording this afterwards. But this is basically where you can find everything else. Primarily, you can find all of the different options, which pretty much the way that they're set should be probably the way that you keep it anyways, because it's all just the music-based stuff. And unless you have a computer or a TV that you're looking at that is slightly behind with its sound, you really shouldn't be doing much with it. It's basically just a way to make sure that you get the actual audio correct. Next is the actual the next is the tutorials, where you can actually see all the different tutorials that you can actually play with, in case you forgot something and you're doing it, which honestly I kind of doubt that you're gonna need them, because you're gonna be seeing them over and over and over again if you keep playing it. So I doubt you're gonna need them, at least for this, for the demo. Once we actually get the game, then sure, you might need it. And then, yeah, pretty much that's it. as for the actual gameplay, the first thing to actually note is that there are only 4 stages that you're actually able to use. And I'm only going to be showing 2 in this video because I didn't want to actually overload you guys with all of the information and stuff. I'm basically only going to be showing you the easiest mode and the hardest mode. And honestly, I do suggest that unless you are actually really good at rhythm games, that you should probably stick with beginner mode at the easiest version. So let's actually talk about that a bit. So again, there's beginner, standard, and proud. Now I know that some people are going to be like, oh, what about critical? No, you do not need it. I'm going to be showing the hardest difficulty thing that is on this game. Trust me, you do not want critical after playing. If you can actually make it through that, I'm only going to be showing the demo of how it goes, and I was terrified to actually even open it in the hardest difficulty just playing it, because you will die very, very quick. But yeah, it's hard. It's a really hard game to play through. The actual game modes that are actually really important to how you play the game are basic, one button, and performer, which I've actually, because I'm also going to be showing the tutorial bit, you already know how to do basic. Basic is, for lack of a better term, basic. That's what you're going to be learning when you do the tutorials and stuff. And more than likely, that's what the game wants you to actually complete the game in, but you don't, it looks like you won't have to if you do the one button thing. One button is actually really helpful, especially because of the fact that in this mode, you only have to press one button, and it can be any of the 3 buttons that you'll use in the game. It can be X, R1, or L1. Either one works, and I pointed to those backwards. But the point is that you can play in this mode, and it's much easier. Even in the flight areas, when you're flying in the actual game, it will still do the other things. So you don't have to, basically Donald and Goofy will still do the other things that they need to do without having you to actually worry about them. Obviously, only do that when you're actually flying, though. As for performer mode, that is a challenge, to say the least. Performer mode is absolutely one of the hardest modes that you will ever play through. Primarily because of the fact that when you play through it, it's not easy, to say the least. Basically, this is the hardest game mode with the hardest creatures in Performer, and it's insanity. You are literally doing nothing but pressing buttons, and you will be constantly going to every single button in the entire game, be it square, L2, R2, the frickin' actual buttons, like directional buttons. You are going to be pressing all of them. The only buttons that you the only button that you will not be using, or I guess buttons you won't be using, is R3 and L3, aka pushing down on the joysticks. And you'll also only not be using one analog stick, that being R3, the right analog stick. You will not be using it in the slightest. I don't even know if you can use it. If you can, I'm going to put a little disclaimer right here that you can actually use it and show you what it's used for. But still, It's insanity to think about. So, yeah, be careful. Honestly, the thing is that with this game, there's a lot of things that people are going to be really, really upset about. The first thing is, of course, the fact that this is a blatant copy of, well, Atlantica, the worst rated level of all time. And with that, you're gonna come across some pretty bad situations. And people are not gonna be happy when they're forced to play a game mode that they absolutely despise. So, you have to be careful with that. I know that some people are going to be like, oh, it's not that bad, blah, blah, blah. The fact is that not a lot of Kingdom Hearts fans are actually really into rhythm-based games. Kingdom Hearts isn't a rhythm-based game, and it's kind of putting them into that situation when they don't necessarily want to be. This is honestly very reminiscent of Kingdom Hearts Chain of Memories. Back when that first released, one of the biggest complaints that people had was, or one of the biggest things that people said was, oh, it's a side game. We don't have to worry about this because it's a side game. We don't need to play it. But then in Kingdom Hearts 2, it was revealed, oh, yeah, Chain of Memories was actually really frickin' important. We should have played it, and now we're regretting it. Well, guess we gotta go back and play it, only for it to be the worst possible version of the game. The game is despised across all realms. No one wants to play it because of the really bad card system. It was poorly designed, and while it's understandable for the time, it's also annoying that people were forced to play this version of the game when they really didn't want to. Now, understandably, this was a Game Boy Advanced game, and you couldn't necessarily do much with it. The whole standard version of it was actually completely understandable the way that they did it. And when they finally ported it to the PlayStation, it was understandable that people were liking it a little bit more. The game was slightly better, but at the same time, it wasn't. People were not happy, and honestly, I feel like that's just gonna be the same frickin' situation here with Melody of Memory. Obviously, people are going to play this game because they know that there is some story aspects that have been kind of left out from the original, from Kingdom Hearts 3. This is the Chain of Memories of the modern Kingdom Hearts, getting us ready for the next major installment, but at the same time, it's something that people are going to despise. So, the game honestly needs to be as good as it's possibly going to be, or else there's going to be a lot of people complaining very quickly. But anyways, guys, hopefully you've enjoyed this video. If you have, definitely make sure to leave a like on the video if you enjoyed it, and also let me know your thoughts on the demo down in the comments below, because I really do want to know what you guys actually think of this game. And if you are going to be, if you want to leave a theory about anything that I talk about on this channel, also leave it down there, because honestly, I kind of want to do something about Kingdom Hearts soon, but we'll have to wait and see exactly what people would like to see. Also, I should actually end this video on a positive note. The dearly beloved of this game is actually pretty decent, and honestly one of the best versions of the game or best versions of the song that I've heard. So there's that. But anyways, guys, if you hopefully you guys have enjoyed this video. If you are new, please subscribe and ring that notification bell. And if you want to support the channel even more, then definitely head down to the description and check out all of our links down there, including our social medias and ways that you can support us financially, including our Patreon, which a big thank you to our current patron, Sheeny. But anyways, guys, I have been Electro Ninja, and I will see you guys next time. But on.
I'll be back, Electro Ninja.